Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are doing good. Today we are going to discuss about data visualization and without delay, let us start. Why it is important the data visualization in our whole AI journey? Because why we need to visualize the data means when you are comparing, see you have some hundreds of data like in a data set you have hundreds of features. Take 20 features, right? On those 20 features, you want to know which features are really important, to keep and which are not. Because a machine, the amount of features you will reduce and the importance you have to know that that way the machines will learn better. If more features are there, then machines are going to learn in a lower rate, right? Like it cannot be so effective. That is why we need to compare all our features before giving input to machines. We need to compare all our features in different axes, like in X and Y axis, we need to compare and we need to say, okay, this feature has more important to the dependent variables. This feature do not have. So likewise, we need to visualize the data. And why it is so important? Because it is shaping industries nowadays. All industries are spending lot of money and they want to know before moving ahead to the next step, okay, what is the insight on so and so product, what is the insight on so and so stock, right? So that is what is the meaning of data visualization. So let us start with the first plot, which is a line plot, and I will tell you which are important. So this is one important plot. Yes, we are like whatever the data points we are plotting, right? We are just connecting them with a straight line. So here you can see we are connecting with different straight lines, right? Where here we have 7 data points, right? So all the 7 data points are getting connected with a straight line. And what we are doing, we are comparing two variables over time. For example, you have SBI stock, right? Here SBI stock. So SBI stock here compared, like there are different prices. So how these SBI prices are reacting over time? Time means you can take Jan month, then Feb month, right? Then March. So you can see here one feature or one insight, here another insight, right? So that is how you can compare the line plot. Similarly, we have something called a marker plot. What is a marker plot? Again, the data points, whatever the data points we are marking. See, here we are marking, like you can see the highlighted orange color. These are the markers. Like the markers can be of any shape. Like you can see here, we have different markers, and these plots and everything will be available in your Matplotlib library. And Seaborn is based on Matplotlib library, and we will cover everything there. I will show you through code how to plot all these charts. And these kind of markers can be beneficial for scatter plots. We have scatter plots. I will show you. The next slide is scatter plot. So how scatter plot is? Just take this example. Okay, take this example. We have different scatter plot. Like the scatter plot means all the data points are there in a scatter manner, and you want to highlight one particular data point. So you can just draw like this. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. So that's how you are marking. See here you can put marker points. This is one another data point. This is another data point. This is another, and likewise, right? So that is how your markers are useful. You can mark your inputs. Okay. Here I have given one example, like consider that you want to show in map, our map, right? In Google Map, consider. So how you are marking the locations in map. It's something similar, right? You are marking marker means one point, one highlighter you can consider like that. Then we have something called scatter plot. What is a scatter plot again, guys? Scatter plot, I have already said, That scatter plot is nothing but, you can see this example, all the data points are scattered manner. There is no shape or nothing we are doing. Every data point is there in a scattered manner, and those data are getting presented in a horizontal and vertical axis, which is nothing but x and y axis. The scatter plot analyzes the relationships between two variables. Take one example, like you can just say you have a population, right? So here all the data points we are taking for a large population. So when we are comparing the height and weight, what is going to be the thing here? My height, this is my height, and this is my weight, right? And here this is one person's data. Another, like if you have 1,000 people, and those 1,000 people data are getting scattered like this. So take one example that, okay, one person's height is 5.3. So one data point will come here, and weight is somewhere around, take here my data point is 45. So like this it will come. So one data point. So imagine in that way, correct? And usually that like if you see the clustering algorithm, right, where we have unsupervised algorithms, so we are trying to get which cluster has more data density. In those cases, this is really important to know, the scatter plots. And most of the times we are using scatter plot because we have to find out the outliers available in that data set or not, whether any outliers are present. So we need to treat those outliers. So what is an outlier? Consider that you have the density all, let me take one example. So you have like this, you have all data points like this. You have like the whole density is present here. Take one point, some data point is present here and some data point is present here and one is present here. So when we are comparing the average or the maximum density of data, it is present here only. However, some data are present here. So what we are going to tell them? We are going to tell them as outliers. These are my outliers, and we need to treat them because it is going to make your machine confused on the average of data. It will ruin this density of data. That is why we need to treat these outliers. Okay. Now let us see another example, which is nothing but an area plot. And why area plots are used? If you want to understand the categories of data, for example, here, if you see this example I have shown you, you just maximize it. See, here there are 3 movies which they have like telecasted in halls and cinema halls, and they want to see on each day how that those 3 movies are behaved, or how those 3 movies went well, like those are went well or not. So when they saw, and this is the price, this one you are seeing, this is a price. Okay, so so this movie, like the first movie, which is a blue color, that has like that went till the sale went till $75 or something, right? And movie 2, which is like it went till 200, and the maximum it went to 250. And movie 3, again it went, like this is the highest grossing movie, like according to them. That is how they are coming up. Okay, movie 3 has more revenue as compared to the other movies, like that. Similarly, total sales revenue over successive quarters. For example, this is okay, like this is your total sales. This is your total sales, and this is your quarters. So take one quarter 1. So for example, my data is coming like this, which is quarter 1. Then another data is coming like this, quarter 2. Again, some more data like this, quarter 3. Similarly, quarter 4. So And sometimes you will see that, okay, each quarter can be merged or can be overlapped. So you need to consider the overlapped area as well there. So see, you can see my quarter 1 data is coming like this, quarter 2 data is coming like this, quarter 3 like this, quarter 4 like this. Why it is important to know, guys? See, each quarter, the data, so the quarter 4 will be a final, right? In a year, quarter 4 will be final. So quarter 4 data or the quarter 4 cell should be more. If that is not coming significant, then they will say, okay, we need to perform well or need to correct few parameters in our company. So that is how our area plot works. Then we will go to our next plot, which is nothing but a bar plot. And in Seaborn, we have a Seaborn library again, right? In Pandas. So in Seaborn, that bar plots are termed as a count plots. We can even count plots can be plotted like this, like this again. The count plots, like there are different shapes. If we'll if we'll start once, we will be able to understand like the plottings, how we are going to plot on the data. And I'm going to explain you everything, guys. So don't worry on that part. I'm going to cover everything. So we have one more plot, which is nothing but bar H plot. So this is your vertical. When you're talking about bar plot, that is a vertical, and this is your horizontal. One example I have shown. This is your horizontal, this is your vertical. Again, bar plot is for categorical data. So let me explain you what is the meaning of categorical and numerical data. So each data, right, in our data set, each data is getting divided into two categories or two sections. One, you can say one numerical wise data, one categorical wise data. In numerical, again, we have two sections. One is a continuous discrete. In categorical, we have categorical data. So before going ahead, we will cover everything again in statistics. So don't worry about it. Just understand that numerical data and categorical data, which you have, numerical means all continuous, like we have all numerical quantities, right? Wherever category means, consider that male and female. Male is one category, female is one category. Similarly, we have A, B, C, D. So A is one category, B is one category, C is one category, D. So again, category wise, we have to see which is a nominal category and ordinal. So everything we will understand, guys. So just think right now, just understand, okay, categorical means we have certain group of thing where it's a group, one category, okay. Then we have something called histogram chart. Histogram, again, guys, it is represented as a bin, like one particular what I can say, one particular data range. It's a range of data that is getting presented as a bin, or you can say range, right? Consider that 50 to 100. Okay, that is one range. So you can imagine, take one example of student and marks. Okay, if this is my students, okay, this is my student data, and these are my different marks. So in my marks, what I'm doing, I'm categorizing. Okay, for example, I'm just going to take 0 to 40, right? You draw it, or 20 to 40. 20 to 40 means fail. 20. This is 20. This is 40. 20 to 40. That means I'm going to meet F category, right? Similarly, I'm going to take 40 to 60, right? That means A category. 60 to 70. 70 means B category. Then 80 to 70 to 90. 70 to 90. That means C category. And you can see, you can draw a curve again over it just to know. So you are knowing, okay, maximum student scored 60 to 70, right? So that is how your histogram works. And we have various properties in like, what is a bin, right? A bin, again, this particular rectangular area is called a bin here. And like I have already said, if you have some range thing, like if you want to show some category in some range, you can use this. And like, again, each data point that fall into this, each bin is getting counted. Visualization frequency, again, each bin is represented as rectangle, width of the rectangle, right? Again, height of the rectangle. So that is how your histogram. So just remember in that way, like when we have to, provide some range over, like some data points over range, then you can come and draw this histogram. We have pie chart. Pie chart is nothing but like the circular graph. It's a circular graph, right? You can see this is circular graph within the components where the data are plotted within component. A segment of, like you can see, these are the segment of pie. So pie plots show the proportion of like it's going to show a proportion of data, right? It is not a complete data. For example, here in this example, we have mathematics, science, social science, English, and Hindi. These are 5. What is this? These are categories. Again, this is based on your categorical data, correct? So you want to show, okay, what is the proportion of data present at one particular point of time. Okay, mathematics, how many students? For example, mathematics, how many students passed? 108. So social science 81, social science 45, right? See, you can see each color is one marker. Each color is one marker, correct? So with this, we can simplify the very complex data into easy way. Like we can understand easily, right? By seeing this. And that is what the purpose of data visualization. Very complex parts, you can make it so easy for a layman person, like the person who doesn't know anything about the company, about the product. They can know, okay, this is what is going on, what is happening. Then we have something very important, guys. Even you will get the questions in interview about this. What exactly is a heat map? Heat map is the most important concept in data visualization, and you will know a lot of things by drawing a heat map in a data set. And everywhere this heat map is a what I can say, it's a major to draw and to come to conclusion, okay, these are the variables or these are the features we have to consider. It's a considerable factor. Okay, so let us understand. A data visualization tool, okay, that uses color. See, you can see it uses different colors, okay, and I will tell you what are the meaning of this color. See, let me maximize this. It will be more understandable. See, we have different colors here, and how, like this part, right? This part, this is nothing but a scale, okay, and those scale is going to tell you, okay, which color has more dependency on one another. Like for example, if my range is coming under blue, okay, you can see some color are dark blue, some color are light blue. That means that feature has less correlation. However, this feature, like take age, okay, this age has more correlation to what? To this vitamin D NG-ml. See, you can see the correlation is coming to 1. That means it has the highest correlation, correct? So that is how you should be able to know. Like based on the color, you should be able to understand which feature is having high correlation, which feature is having low correlation. So age is having more correlation to this, right? I mean age. Then this one is this one, vitamin D NG-ml. This has again less correlation to this, right? enum, uric acid, mgdl. So like that guys, and we will understand more on this. My purpose for today is to show you what exactly are the charts and graphs and why we need it. So that is all my purpose, and we will cover each and every topic in more descriptive manner, in a more uh, programmatic manner. Okay. Here one example, maintaining the time series data through day-to-day activity. That is one example again, right? Time series data means you can say stock market analysis, stock market data, right? That is again on each day how one particular stock is behaving. You can understand by drawing different heat map for that. Then we have something again very important. This is again one more interview topic. You can say box plot. Why? Like what is a box plot? A box plot again is a whisker plot where the data visualization is happening on numerical data through its quartiles. What is a quartile, guys? So this one. So this is how your box plot is getting presented. Okay? This is how your box plot is getting presented, and this particular one is your data density, like where or the probability density, you can say, where the more amount of data will be presented here. And these lines are called your whiskers. Okay, and we have some formulas and everything. I am keeping that aside right now, but I wanted to know, okay, with this is going to be presented like this. You can see here one example I have shown where I am just showing the day and some factor it is there. So based on the day, what is the, like how the data is getting distributed, it is showing, and you can see how it is getting presented. This is how, just like this is just for your knowledge I am showing. We will discuss more about this again in our upcoming videos. So just understand one whisker or one box, how it is presented. This is how it is presented. We have one maximum point, one minimum point, and how to calculate that maximum point? You have Q3 plus 1.5 into IQR, and this part, right, this middle portion which you are seeing, that is your interquartile range. This part is an interquartile range where the data density is more. Okay, and this one is a Q1 point, and this is your Q3 point. This middle portion, like the median, middle line, which is you are able to see, that is your median. Okay, so one box is there. We are dividing that through median, which is a midpoint, you can say, and from that midpoint, one section it is called Q1, another section is called Q3, and that area is called interquartile range. And we have the whisker endpoints. So those whisker endpoints are telling considered as maximum and minimum. And minimum has a formula which is Q1 minus 1.5 into IQR. Maximum is Q3 plus 1.5 into IQR. And this is the best technique, guys, to find out the outliers. Again, I have explained you what is an outlier. An outlier is something which will mess up your data. Machine will take and treat that as a major important data point, and it will consider it, and it will mess your whole study or whole learning of machine, right? Then we have some example here, which is nothing but like how the patients, like we have few group of patients, take one like cancer patient or something, or how they are recovering day by day. That is one example. Second, how you are starting a campaign, right? Product campaign. So in that product campaign, you are advertising. How that advertisement is progressing on day by day. That report also you can show here in case of box plot. Then next we have something called KDE plot. KDE is nothing but kernel density estimate. And why it is called as kernel density? Kernel is why it is called kernel density? It is because we are using the kernel function here, and here we have used the Gaussian function. And what is a Gaussian function, guys? Something like this. and this is your data. This whole area is your data density. Data density. And that is why it is called kernel density estimate. And we have again different kernel functions, guys. I do not want to go more deeper. So we can see, to visualize the probability density function of a continuous variable. Let me tell you what is the difference between discrete and continuous variable, just for again we will cover more on that. So what is a continuous variable, guys? Take marks, okay, student marks. When we are talking about marks, right, we have again continuous data, right? Some student have scored 40, some student have scored 50, then some student has scored 60, some has 90. So that is a continuous data. And what about discrete data? Again, in numerical we have discrete data. Discrete means when we are talking about a number of instance. For example, a class has 60 students. So when we are talking about 60 students, what it is, can we tell, okay, 60 and a half student? No, right? It's going to be always a whole number. So in that case, we are telling that is a continuous data. Take one more example of discrete data. Sorry, continuous is my the value which is continuously happening. Discrete means at a particular time period, a particular instance, whatever the number we are getting. For example, at particular duration, take from 6 to 7 p.m. how many cars passed the highway. For example, 100 cars passed the highway. We cannot say 100 and half, right? Either it's 100 or 100 or 102. So that way you can imagine the discrete data. So here probability density function is for continuous data. Okay, so unlike histograms, KD plots generate a smooth curve. So how histogram, you can see I have shown a histogram, right? And you can generate a smooth curve over it, just to know how the density function, or how the probability density area. So you can say this is my first point, this is my second point. So I can say, okay, my data is distributed between 10 to 90. So I can say the HIB rate or the HIB percentage is coming more between 10% to 90% people, right? So that is our KD. And this is one example I have shown, guys. See how this is your probability density function. See, this is a kind of KD curve, right? Between at one particular time period, how my data is getting distributed, and I can say that, okay, this data distributed between A and B, right? I can say, my inference of understanding should be, okay, my data is between, or the probability is coming within this to this. Then we have something called violin plot. Violin, you can say, let me maximize this image. Again, the violin plot is based on, a numerical data across different categories. That means a category. See, one example you can see, category 1, category 2, category 3 are there. And here we are, distributing through some other feature. So what we are doing, we are telling, okay, take one example as in a sales marketing, right? In sales marketing, take one example, okay, one category, like category 1 product. My category 1 product got this much sales. Okay, then my category 2 product got this much sales, and my category 3 product got this much sales. In a particular time period, take 1 week. Take 1 week and just see how my different category products are sold properly, right? So that same thing can be presented with violin plot, and you can see the middle, this middle section, right? The violin plot, this part is having high density, right? That means we can say, okay, this category. So if we see this, right, what we will say, okay, this category has like performed moderately. This category has performed well because it has more area, right? However, the sales was not proper, but the category importance is more. Like that you can infer, right? And again, it's why the name is like Valin plot, because it has a Valin shape to represent the probability density of the data. Right? Again, we can say it's a combination of KD and box, right? So you can see KD, right? And you can see box. So box means what, guys? Again, this whisker present, right? Here whisker is there, here the median value is there in between. So we can say it's a combination of KD in box, right? So here again, one example I have given to recover, you want to understand the recovery rate of recovery time of patients after surgery. This is one of the example you can take in that case, right? Then we have something called swarm plot. Swarm plot is a categorical scatter plot. It's the way it will be presented, and you can see one particular category. It's a more more defined way of showing data in scatter plot, right, guys? There is no defined way, right? Or you can see all the data is getting scattered here in a unshaped manner. But here we are giving it as a shape, as a swarm plot, and how you will know which has more impact. So you will see, this is one example, okay, where the number of people, how they are going to restaurant and they are giving tip, okay, after end of the dining. So you can see that they have presented it through different days: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you see, on Saturday they have given more tip, right, because that is a weekend. And Sunday, you can see they have moderately they perform again in Thursday. So if you see that my Saturday people are giving more tip, correct? And if you see in Saturday, more people are even coming. So how it is? This is your area, right? This is your area. Here, this is your area. See, in Friday less people came. This is your area, and Saturday more people came. You can see Saturday more people came. Sunday again more people came. So if with that you should be able to understand, okay, more people are coming on Saturday and giving more tips, right? That is how you should be able to visualize the data, and you should understand the data. And yeah, we can tell that, okay, this can be one outlier. We don't know the data, but by seeing this, we can say, okay, this is the outlier. So outlier detection can be easier in swarm plot again at the same time, right? Then we have something called pair plot. Pair plot means when you are plotting in a kind of matrix. Matrix means what? We have, what is a matrix, guys? M cross N, right? So this plot is having how many rows? 2 rows. How many columns? 2 columns. So when we will say, okay, if I am presenting my data in a 2 cross 2 matrix, how does that sound? That's right, no? So when we are saying, okay, 2 cross 2 matrix, and at that time what we will say? Each plot is getting called as a subplot. So how I am going to present it? 2, 0, this one, 2, 1, right? 1, 0, 1, 1, correct? Right, this is the first row, this is the second row, this is the first column, this is the second column. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. Correct? That is how you are presenting. So each one will be subplot, and each subplots can be presented by using a pair plot. So with this, you should be able to know more broader sense by plotting different charts at a time. You can compare different charts at a time. So visually it is going to be easier, correct? Even here, you can see I have combined 2 different plots. One is a KD and one is a scatter. So with that, I am able to see, okay, how many outliers are present in particular plot, correct? Here, even this pair plot can be easier for to determine outliers, and all these things, right? Swan plot, pair plot, violin plot, all these things are your part of your Seaborn library. Strip plot, even one more. This is again a part of Seaborn library. Uh, Mostly we are using Matplotlib, but Seaborn again sometimes we are using. So we will again, it is up to you how you are going to use your plots in different areas. Either the one on which you are thinking, okay, this one can be easier for me as a syntax. Seaborn has a very minimal syntax. However, Matplotlib has a bit more logic to write, where you have to write x-axis, you have to define y-axis, we have to define the size of the figure. Everything you have to define more there. But here, only one line, everything should be defined. So we will understand again those things. But right now, just see, these are the Seaborn plottings. We have something called strip plot. Again here, you can see my data is getting distributed only in one single axis. Do you see anything like this? No, right? It's straight. It's straight. So why it is like, what is the significance of this? When you have less data, right? When you have less data, you want to compare. For example, here you can see there is a comparison. Let me increase this. Increase this. I think with this example will give you more insight. See, again, one particular day, on different days, which category of people, like it's a male or female, have paid total bill. How many bills paid on which day? So we'll see the male people. The males have paid more as compared to females. That means the males have paid more bills and more tips as compared to female, right? Take this example. Take this example. Okay. Here you can see the data is very, very concentrated, right? Even here on Thursday, the data is very concentrated. Again here you can see this is female. But as compared to male, the females have less density or less concentrated data, right? That is how you can understand the data points, right? And why we are not going to use this on a large data? Because there is a high chance that you cannot understand because the points will be in an overlapped manner. You cannot understand, right? You cannot infer what exactly is what. Because sometimes one point is going to be overlapped and you will not know, okay, there is overlapping of points until and unless we will use some other marker over it, right? So that is all, guys, for data visualizations, and we will understand more statistical concepts. Well, that is all for today, and we will cover statistical concepts in our upcoming videos. So stay tuned to this channel, start subscribing, like, share your comments, share your feedback, and hit the bell icon for all kind of latest updates. See you. Take care. Have a great rest of your whole week. Thank you.